Three big things I learned from it. You learn as a founder, as CEO, whatever title you use, you have something that you're building, whether it's a business venture or just something personal. You're probably going to spend more time in the valley than on the peaks. I spent a lot of that journey the first time trying to not just climb out of the valley, but kind of beating myself up for even being in the valley in the first place. In the last year, my parents moved down. They live a mile from us. Just having your family with you, I think it's just great
Yeah.
on so many
Well, that's why
levels.
we work, right? I think we work for the value of the purpose and try to keep that focus. So we, overcome things that are challenges or you might give up for various reasons when you have that particular focus of what does the bigger picture look like? At least for me and maybe you, I'm a
Yeah,
reminder that whatever I build, grow, and scale, I'm never going to take with me.
that's right.
So it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to say, well, I won the greatest prize and I'm dead because, personally, I believe in an afterlife, which is going to be even better than this one. But up to that point, I also want to enjoy the life I was given and not squander it on meaningless things if at all possible, right? So that obviously ties to you. So tell me more about you.
So I'll start with what I'm doing today. I live in Atlanta. I run a company called Spiralize. If you think about how hard it is to get traffic just to come to your website, like
Mm-hmm.
extraordinarily difficult. And then you got to get it to convert. Whatever convert means for you, it might mean putting the sneakers in the shopping cart, clicking buy, might mean filling out some kind of lead gen form. If you're buying cybersecurity software, you're probably not putting in the old corporate card. And to buy it, you're clicking like start that free trial or book some kind of sales demo. That part's really hard. That's the part we help our customers with, that second part. And we do it by crawling the internet, finding everyone else's A/B tests, shamelessly borrowing them, and running. Our customers get to run the best ones. And
Like,
I'm the CEO, so it's a really cool company. Second time CEO. So before this, I was a founder, CEO of a health tech company called ER Express, ran that for 10 years, and had all the ups and downs of especially being a first time CEO.
let's get into some of
Yeah,
that. What has that meant to your personal and professional development?
three big things I learned from it. One is you learn as a founder, as CEO, whatever title you use, you have something that you're building, whether it's a business venture or just something personal. You're probably going to spend more time in the valley than on the peaks.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of that journey the first time trying to not just climb out of the valley, but kind of beating myself up for even being in the valley in the first place.
Right. Knowing you're there and then beating yourself up over it. So why not
Yeah,
kick yourself when you're down, right?
that's exactly right. It looks like everyone else is at the peak. When you're
Mhm.
down here, everyone looks way up there. The reality is you actually are going to, you need to get comfortable living in the valley. That doesn't mean you should be complacent. You got, if your business is not performing, okay, at some point, you got to get it from here to here. But actually being comfortable and saying, hey, I'm in the valley and this is where I am today. And I want to get out of it. It might be tomorrow, it might be next month, it might be longer. But I actually can get comfortable living in the valley because that's part of the journey. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
You looked like you were going to respond. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that is one of the things that a lot of people don't want to hear, especially those who might be considering a new business, a new venture, a new startup, getting into it. They want to hear the best parts of it. They don't want you to necessarily tell you the truth about the parts that
Well, that
were,
is the truth. You're going to live in the
yeah,
valley.
the ones where you risked it all, the ones where maybe some of us went bankrupt trying to figure it out, or other times where like we put your payroll on a credit card hoping that you can pay it off at the end of the
Did
month.
all those
These
things.
kinds of things, right?
Bounce the bank account 3 times in
Oh,
the
at
early
least three
years.
times? That's amateur, dude. Come on
Yeah, the
now.
times I had to tell my wife, like, not only don't look, but don't use the debit card for a few days.
Right. Oh, geez. We've had those calls. You've had those calls. Oh, my gosh. My wife calls and she's like, honey, can I check out? Do we have enough money in the bank account? For many years, we had to go through that process of her calling and being like, hey, is there enough money to make sure we have an account? And, checking with me and making sure, like,
Yeah,
you obviously went through some of that struggle.
yeah, I had. So that's the first thing. Like, just, yeah, no one wants to think that it's going to happen to them. And I also think we lionize the big wins. And by all means, the big wins they're part of what inspire people. And I think that's great. And you should draw inspiration from the big successes. First of all, I think we do the people that have succeeded in
Yeah.
injustice. And I think we ultimately do ourselves an injustice if we
Yeah.
don't, if we try to
That's true.
pretend that there weren't valleys and there weren't a lot of left turns along the way.
It's true.
Um,
It's absolutely true. And it's hard to, I think it's the right message, what you're saying. It's the right intent behind it. And it may cost you some business with people. But at the same time, if they aren't really going to be the right ones for what you do, then they're ultimately going to fail the system, fail you, fail the process. And then, of course, the risk is that when you're in an agency style format like you and working on CRO, they're going to blame you, even if their funnel never converted and you sent a bunch of traffic to it.
Yeah.
Sound about right?
Yeah. All those things are true. Second thing, big thing I learned is at some level you have to learn to detach yourself from the outcome. I think it's really hard as a founder. Often say that I've got two actual kids, but that my first business, ER Express, was like my third kid. It was a middle child because I have an older one and I ER Express, and a younger one that was born kind of at the tail end of that business.
Right.
And I would say to a degree it still is, but much less so part of my identity. And if your identity is not going well, if your business isn't going
Yeah.
well, whether it's factually, objectively not going well, or just not meeting your expectations, and I think everyone has high expectations for themselves, you can get yourself in, if you feel really bad. I felt really bad.
Yeah.
And the reality is a bunch of these things are out of your control.
Right. My first rule
And
of business and my life, I tell my children, is control the controllables.
so look, the way the market's doing, right? I
Yeah.
had multiple efforts to raise capital for the business
Okay.
that failed. Some of it was me, for
Sure.
sure, and the business management team, but some of it was just the timing on the market, and a bunch of things are out of my control.
Market
Now I know that
conditions are
it's easier to know
always
that in
going to be
hindsight.
shifting, dude. I've raised lots of capital before, and I will tell you they will always shift. And there are certain waves you can ride, and then there are other times where it doesn't feel like the market's right, but it's just the money's not near you. It's not near you because it's not in your location, which means
Yep.
it's not within your network, which means it's going to take you longer to establish the relationship to find out where the money went and where it's actually going. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We can look around and see billions of dollars, trillions of dollars moving everywhere. Some going the right direction, some not going the right direction, but we can see that money is moving. We're just not near it. That's a tough realization when you're in need, right?
It is. It is. The third thing is to get help before you need it,
A
and
very good state.
get a professional therapist.
Okay, hold up, time out. What are you calling a professional therapist?
Well, my wife is a clinical psychologist by training.
You're literally talking about that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not telling everyone to go and get married to a clinical psychologist.
Okay, thanks for the point of clarification there.
But I share that, just by way of a story. At some point, I was pretty close to the bottom, and my wife we were having a conversation about something that was pretty, like, it was like picking what movie to watch. And I was at a place where I just had kind of ceased to care about anything. Like, I couldn't make a decision. I didn't care about anything. I couldn't even pick like what movie. I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, just nothing felt like it mattered. I'm fortunate to be married to the person I'm married to. And she called time out. She's like, hey, hang on a sec. This isn't about the movie. You need help.
Mm.
And you can go by yourself. I can go with you, but you need it. And I know it's not about, what picking a movie this afternoon.
Mm.
I was lucky that she spotted that and that we still had enough of a bridge that we could communicate in that way.
Yeah, that is really good. I understand.
Yeah. And then look, therapists come in a lot of kind of shapes and sizes
Sure.
and flavors.
Yeah.
And I think you got to find the one that works for you. But I think, getting someone who is trained to do that work,
Yeah.
not like, I think it's good to have confidants and someone like a shoulder to cry on, or peers that you can talk to. Those are good.
Mhm. Very
Those
true.
are not a substitute for a trained, licensed therapist.
Well, I'm glad that worked for you and for the situation, and I'm sure it would work for others because we do have difficulties at times pulling
Yeah,
together thoughts, and we don't necessarily have the right people to share it with, and we don't know where to take it, which can be a concern for your mental health. I mean, at the end of the day, we ride a roller coaster that not everyone sees on the
that's right.
entrepreneurial seat. We're at the front of that thing, and every once in a while you come up to a cliff and you look down, it feels like a vertical drop, and that can happen like 2 or 3 times in a day, which again does not ride well with everybody's mental capacity.
That's right. And so one of the things I learned is, get help when you need it, but even
Yeah.
better is if you get it before you need it.
Yeah.
And so,
Smart.
I've worked with a few people over the years, and that process has been really helpful.
Good.
And I'm thankfully now at a place where I would say I'm more able to be in almost like preventative or kind of a preventative maintenance routine, just like working out.
Yeah.
If you need to get in shape, you should do it. Even better is to be at a place where you're kind of at an even keel, and you're exercising, you're taking care of just like you exercise to take care of your body, you
Yeah.
do things to take care of your mind.
Yeah. No, we really do, and it's an important part. I think you and I talked a little bit about that. One of the things I've done every day is try to get 4 miles in, either if it's, on the road with my wife where we have our consult, our time together, our balance. She's the opposite of me, so she just sees things I don't see. She comes from angles I didn't think about, and we have that great time to walk. Or sometimes I just got to get on the treadmill when it's 20 degrees outside and just, go for it and put the music on and just kind of go on my nothing box for a little bit. I know people like to listen to podcasts and stuff when they do their
Can't do
workout.
that. I think it's weird.
I can't do it either, right? Because that's more noise in my head that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to mentally process, think about, be in analytics, have the moments of anger and frustration and work it all out in my head while I'm doing that, miles on the treadmill. And if someone else is talking at me, I'm simply not going to get that time. That's a coping mechanism, I have learned to do it. And the
Yeah,
way I,
everyone's got to find their own, but I
yeah,
happen to be right there with you. Like
yeah,
I
you're
need
the
to
same.
either be listening to music I love or,
Yes.
maybe NFL highlights. I'll watch that because it's like simple, but most of it's music,
And most
and if I,
we need the simple things. Yeah, music is a great one for me, especially uplifting music that has a bit of a beat to it, nothing solemn or whatever. That has a lot to do with energy, and frequency and your ability to think past certain things. And I always have the same set of questions I ask myself. Maybe you do, because it sounds like you have some of those similar kinds of coping mechanisms. And it's really always, what's the worst that can happen? When this situation reaches a point where I have to make a decision and I have a fork in the road, go this way or that way, and I'm not 100% sure what the right decision is, and maybe I got some input from my friend, my wife, my business partner, whatever, and I still have to make a decision, I just look at it and go, what's the worst that can happen if I go this way? And what's the worst that can happen if I go that way? And whichever one feels the less painful, even though it may go well, it may be the right answer, even if it backfires, like what's the worst one I'm going to have the most, trouble dealing with? What's the resolution? And then I do it.
yeah,
It's just like a little simple 3-step process for overcoming those things. And it's always, what's the worst that can happen?
I really like that, and I think there's a beauty in the simplicity. And I don't know about you. My guess would be as often, or I think if I were doing that, I probably find out that the worst is not as bad as I think it is.
Well, yeah, because you'll come up with, okay, well, I'll die and my kids will be alone without me.
Yeah.
Right.
Eventually you get there, right?
I
Is
mean,
it like,
eventually
hey,
you get to the same conclusion every time. I think this is the part that most people don't want to recognize. I'll go bankrupt and have to start over. I'll be dead, and that's the end of this. I will have some physical problem or capability that stops me from doing what I'm doing. Like, you're going to have some of those like problems that always come back to us. It's never even going to be about the business. So when you ask what's the worst that can happen, it's always, what's the pain that I'm willing to accept? What's the
yep,
worst pain I'm willing to accept in this situation? And then how am I going to cope with it? Well, I'm going to deal with it. I'm in my world. I'm going to face it like a man. I'm not going to sit down and I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to whine. If it goes bad, I'm going to find a solution and I'm going to pivot and I'm going to make the best outcome of whatever that was possible because I'm still here to do it. And I think a lot of people get to that point where, well, if I risk anything and you've done this, what's the guarantee on the other side that it's going to work well in my favor? Or am I going to look bad? Or is someone going to chastise me? Or am I going to have to answer for some things and why it went bad? Am I going to have to face the firing squad? Okay, yeah, every one of those things is an outcome of any bad decision. So why do we keep lamenting over the outcomes when we know that every one of those things is eventually where it's going to end up? So we're just feeling afraid of the unknown, right? And we're
well,
trying to
I think
rational some outcome.
you're onto something there. The fear of the unknown. Like one exercise I find myself doing is just asking myself, what is the thing that's bothering me? Because I'll feel
Yeah.
that pit in
What is
my
the real
stomach.
thing?
I'm like, what's caught? Like, what is that? And I just try to keep trying to get back to I can get to something that's kind of at the root of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I often find if I can just identify and name it and be
Yep.
like, what is that thing? Well, some this person said something that I didn't like
Mhm.
because it revealed some truth about me
Perfect.
that I didn't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, no, after
And just
facing
being able to
truth.
put it, and I'd be like, okay, and literally I will try to picture it in my mind.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this person said this thing to me. I don't like it. That's actually the thing that's bothering me, not all this other stuff. And I'll try to picture it in my head, imagine like it in like letters, and just be like, hey, can I put a box around it? Can it stay in that box so I can do the thing I need to do, which is cook dinner or be with my kids and actually like be there with them,
To
or
be
I-
present in
yeah,
there,
or
to be
do the
present.
job. I have
Yeah,
a customer call. I need to be in CEO mode. I can't be thinking about this thing from some other part of my
yeah.
day and just put it in a box. And
Be
often
present.
I find just that act of acknowledging, like, that's the thing that's gnawing at me.
Mm.
It didn't solve it. It's not going to go away.
Not
It's going
tomorrow,
to
maybe
bother me
next week,
tonight.
right? It's just gonna be there for a little bit, right?
But I have what I have is a choice about, do I let it gnaw at me for the next 30 minutes when I really need to be doing something else?
Or
Or
focusing
can
on
I put
something
it
else.
aside and acknowledge that I don't like this and it bothers me and it's bad, or but maybe it's my fault. Maybe I messed up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
maybe you're in kicking yourself in the head a few times.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it when I have time to deal with it. So I
it's
find that,
avoidance. Pain avoidance is really what all this comes down to. We're always trying to avoid pain. So many business owners are like, well, if I make this decision, what's the guarantee of the outcome? If I do this, what are we going to expect the results to be? It's like, well, okay, you're trying to avoid pain for a change. What you aren't saying is, could the change turn out positively? We're going to find that out in the process. So the only way to really know it is to do it, right? All experience says go this direction, so we go that direction. Well, what happens if it doesn't work? Well,
that's
we're
right.
going to deal with it if it doesn't work. Like the answer to the question continuously comes back to you're going to figure it out. What's the worst? And so many people who are listening to this probably need to hear this because they're looking for ways to rationalize the change in the pain. They're looking for the least amount of resistance to the greatest outcome. And instead of facing the outcomes that have resistance to gain the value, they constantly keep avoiding the pain. And it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And then they get more and more desperate. And then you run into bigger problems. You can't run a business like that at the end of the day. That's emotions, right? And we're not even talking about gut feel decisions because I'm usually making mine on data. And then experience is kicking in and saying, can I trust the data? And if the data is good, whether I like it or not, I have to deal with it. I have to deal with whatever it says.
Yeah, well put.
So, where are you going with your conversation next year for your people? Are you pivoting, changing? I mean, a lot of things we're talking about are experiences that you've had to get you to this point. What's that actually doing for you? And in the next, year, what are you really thinking this is going to change and impact?
So I think in the context of Spiralize, we've been fortunate. We'll have a really good 2025. We're an interesting company because we're both a service business and a product business. Now, we start like a lot of agencies. We started life as a pure agency and then figured out we needed a moat. But that's part of the reason I became CEO, because I had ran a SaaS business, a pure SaaS business for 10 years before I came here. And I was actually an early customer of Spiralize.
Cool.
So
Just so
I,
much you bought into it.
yeah. And the founder, who sits 6 feet from me, we had known each other for a long time. He'd done a great job building the business, and he was looking for a partner to help him take it to the next level. And so one of the things, so we've become, turned it, what agencies, one of the challenges is they tend to have a lot of project revenue, and they're kind of, there's a bit of a treadmill that they're always running on. And the Spiralize business model has really become, because we've productized it and we actually have a product that we sell with our service, it has more characteristics like a SaaS business than an agency. All of this to say, we've got pretty good visibility now on what next year will look like. And so we're in I'd say maybe little bit of a luxury position where we're really playing right now for Q3 and Q4 of next year. What are the things we need to be doing now? We know what Q1 and Q2 are going to look like. So those are the things I'm focused on. How do we keep the growth rate? As we last year we grew 30%, or this year we'll grow 30% on last year, and that itself we grew 50% from the year before. As that denominator gets bigger, the growth rate gets harder.
Of course. But incremental changes, small shifts help you see that change. And I think it's fascinating what you're saying, because a lot of people are just thinking, what's the end of 2025 look like, as we're coming up on it now, at
Yeah,
the time of recording this. And I'm already into June of next year, July, thinking about, for our world, what does Prime, TikTok, Shopify, et cetera, look like, omni-channel for our multi-channel brands. And then that's going to be leading me into, well, what kind of buying decisions do we need to make on inventory levels and stuff as we head toward third and fourth quarter? Because at the rate of growth and the segmentation of the markets that we're in on the e-com side, it is changing radically. I don't know if anybody realizes how much has shifted in 2025 that is going to be exposed in 2026. I know everybody comes to this end of year thing and they all want to talk big things, but as operators, you know what I'm talking about. There is kind of a rubber band slingshot effect occurring in what you just said, as it pushes you all the way into third and fourth quarter of next year.
that's right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and look, that's not to say that Q1 is a slam dunk for us at all.
No, but you
Yeah,
can just see enough to realize you've been there long enough to know what's going to happen next.
yeah, and we've put in place enough forecasting systems that we know the trajectory for the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. Yep.
Now we still have to execute on it.
Of
That's
course.
easier said than
Market
done.
conditions being as they remain or
Well, I think that
non-remain, that's just changes and impacts of pivoting strategy a little bit, right?
that's right. And I think that's the difference between a first-time CEO and a second-time CEO.
Mm.
I don't spend much time worrying about those kind of things that are out of my control. So the
Mm-hmm.
macroeconomic conditions, look, if they're good, they'll help us. Great.
Yep.
If they're not good, they'll hurt us.
Yep.
I just out of my control. In the meantime, what can I do? I can kind of make sure we execute our plan as well as possible. I spend a lot of I think ultimately for us, we're kind of small to medium sized business. One of the biggest hedges I have against kind of getting it wrong is spending a lot of my week talking to customers.
Mm-hmm.
So I on average talk to 15 to 20 customer calls every week.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean I'm going to get it right, but
Yep.
it vastly reduces the chance that I'm going to get it totally wrong, that I'm going to
Yep.
be out of touch with
That's
our
right.
our customer market. And so if it's changing, I want to know as quickly as possible that it's changing.
Yeah.
It's not going to give me the answer, but it's going to tell me, hey, this thing that I thought was going to work, the assumptions that were underlying it are no longer valid. I don't know what the new assumptions should be, but I know I can't rely on those other ones. And I think that's for me, that's a true north as a CEO.
Well said. Well said. I think experience finally tells you that that's where you should be having the conversation about, and how you should be keeping the pulse on what's going on. It's
Yeah,
not that I'm not the fry cook; it's that I know what the fry cooks are doing, and
that's
I
right.
know
And
how.
by the way, you should work the fry cook shift every once in a while.
Every once in a while, you do.
They really should. You
You,
should. You should. Look, if you run a
never
restaurant,
bad.
I bet. Have you, Neil? Sounds like maybe you used to. I worked in restaurants in high school.
Yeah.
I think it's like you should walk the floor. You should walk the kitchen. You should
Understand.
walk the front desk. You should walk the dining room.
Every once in a while, I dip into the inbox to see what the customer support's doing, so I can understand where they're conversing, what they are liking, what problems they're having, how it's flowing through the chain. I really understand. And I do, similar to you, also take quite a lot of calls every week with clients at different stages of development and conversation and concern and growth and scale and, capital
As
efficiency.
many as I
And I
can.
understand where they are.
As many as I can. I
Yeah,
also try to get on as many sales calls as I can because that's where the market's headed rather than where it is.
the people are asking the questions you need to know. Where has it changed? Yeah, that's very good. It's the only way to keep a pulse on pivot. And we're doing some of that, listening to the market churn. Sales are okay in some of our markets. We've actually taken over a large market share on Amazon in one particular brand. And we have the market share, yet we were down 11% over Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And we're like, we were down 11%, but we took over the market share that was there for what happened to the other guys?
Yeah.
They must have taken a 20% dip. We're looking at it going, it's changed. Like, let's go figure out what's going on. So for the last 2 days, it's been really like kind of post-mortem of data and watching the channels and looking at it going, okay, what's changing?
Yeah. I'm curious. What'd you find? Did you find something
Well,
yet?
I'm not through the whole analysis yet, but initial responses are, the certain channels are way up where they were not expected to be, like TikTok, and
Okay.
other channels took a huge hit that they were not expected to take, like Amazon, which took, looks by all intents and purposes right now. I think we'll see the numbers come out towards the first quarter, but it looks like it's 15 to 20% dip
That
over,
people bought way less on Amazon than expected.
but they bought it on other channels. So the
Got it. So they were
omni-channel
buying
truth
that. They were buying that flat screen TV somewhere. They were still buying it. They just were buying it
somewhere else. They
somewhere
went to the
else.
DTC channel. They went to TikTok. They went to one of the direct channels on retail online. Like my wife, it was just an example of this. And I was talking about her earlier, talking to her earlier about some of the things we discovered. She's like, oh yeah, she goes, I bought a number of things on Kohl's this year that I would have normally bought on Amazon. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
you're,
I'm fascinated. Why's that?
well, it's just because they had better deals. Like, huh, interesting. So you're one of those demographics. I mean, she is, because she fits it perfectly. 24 to 27 to 40-year old is the largest segment of buyers on Amazon. So we saw that dip, but Amazon's also fighting a couple of other things. Other channels are not, in terms of change in its market. One of them being Chinese sellers are falling out of the market due to the requirement of they're now having to report to China itself directly what their tax revenues were,
Mm-hmm.
whereas before they were not being held accountable. So that tariff measure with Trump actually forced China to be in compliance with their own sellers instead of making the U.S. do it. And so they're falling out of the market very fast. And so now
That's
we're being hit
interesting.
up by Amazon to go after all of our brands, brand ambassadorship, 12 months deal, launch pads deals, lightning, like everything possible. They're going after all of our brand to stabilize and grow all of them because they are all US based. So this has been shifting in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we can't figure out what the heck just changed. But now that we're seeing the sales, we're kind of putting the dots together. So as we go a little farther towards 2026, I'll have a more comprehensive picture of the macro change that's occurring in the market. But at the micro level, something you were tapping on a minute ago, we are omni-channeling everything as fast as we can, right? TikTok, Shopify, retail, it's going into omni-channel, everything. Things we didn't know that was the right time to do it, we're doing it anyways. Yeah. Macro
Yeah.
changes for micro impacts. We'll see what happens next year. But fascinating, the numbers that are coming out, and the market has shifted, a lot of online sales, a lot more sales through OpenAI on the GPT side, Perplexity, et cetera, being shifted around that is favoring DTC brands. That's definitely one of the things we've noticed as well.
Because people are going to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is more likely to recommend you find that
100%.
whatever on Kohl's rather than on
Or sending you
Amazon.
to a
Is that
YouTube link that tells you about the product review. And in that YouTube link, it takes you to a DTC channel on Amazon. Yeah, these are happening a lot now. And as shopping agents, agentic agents, protocols and stuff are coming through and showing people different channel opportunities to buy products. And one of the brands that's, overarching is really exploding is TikTok. TikTok has really taken some huge market share because it's positioned for most of the video content and creative, demand capture side is being fed into those engines. Amazon has put up additional firewalls and things to stop a lot of that happening as it tries to wall itself in a bit, and that has actually caused some problems. Whereas TikTok to Shopify has been a big move, and TikTok Shop itself, now all that traffic is flowing out. So there's some definite things changing.
so people are more? Why is Amazon walling itself in? That's fascinating.
Well, they have their own proprietary stuff, so it looks at the face value, like their ranking engine, proprietary market share, their Rufus engine that they use to try to pull data and stuff in. It's stuff they're trying to keep more close to the chest as opposed to letting it out more. Where Shopify being a platform just lets everything out. TikTok being a content creator platform, everything just naturally goes out because that's just the way it is, and they only
When you say
introduce
everything, tell me which. When you say everything
content,
goes out, okay.
communications, and relationships with the products are being pushed out, not in. Whereas Amazon is more of a closed system; those are open systems, and they have intentionally done that in order to create virality, reach, and the social management component of it, which Amazon wasn't based on. Amazon was based on more platform demand capture, so it's based a lot more on inbound conversations in its what we call it psychology of buyer. The other way around is everybody's talking outwards. And by product, then they're now with TikTok Shop, they're like, well, I'll buy it on TikTok Shop, or hey, it points to a DTC store, or I might go order it because I found it. That's all being captured by these engines faster than Amazon's able to get the data out because it's walling it off more. They're going to have to open it up. I think this is what we're going to see.
Interesting.
They're going to have to open some of that up because they're going to lose that battle, right? And it's just an opportunity for everybody who's listening to realize the things that you do, the relationship with the customer, their path, the optimizations of that path and that customer narrative, that customer lifetime value, et cetera, is going to have to focus on an omni-channel. It just is. What you do is going to be extremely powerful.
Yeah, I think so. Let's say that sounds like a good bet.
It's a very good bet, and you're in a very good position to take advantage of it. And
That's
those who are
kind of you
listening,
to say that.
yep, those who are listening should really understand that this is your 2026 opportunity. You need to figure out how to omni-channel your brands. If you've been waiting to do it, you're maybe even behind. So it's best to get started. If you don't, there's a guy right here who probably can help you answer some of those questions. If you're already on those channels, you're probably going to want to know, how am I having a good conversation with my customer? How I'm ensuring connectivity with them, and how am I making sure they come back and buy more from me? And I keep my system of communication clear, my path clear, my brand clear. You guys are going to definitely want to check out what's going on with Sahil. You want to shout out for your link and stuff, brother?
Yeah, if you're interested in hearing more, first check out spiralize.com. If you want it, check out some interesting stuff. Find me on LinkedIn, Sahil Patel. I post 4 mornings a week, 7:30 a.m. Always in bite-sized snaps, about 60 seconds to 90 seconds, easy to digest.
Awesome.
Some of the stuff is fun or funny, and some of the stuff is a little more eat your veggies.
Eat your veggies, which is good stuff too. We need to eat veggies.
Yeah, you should do both.
Man, is there a topic we didn't cover that you wanted to get into?
No, I think we covered it. This has been a great discussion, Neil. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed it. There's a lot to unpack in what we said. I should have you back, and we'll
Would
keep
love to
going.
do it.
And maybe we'll talk about what's happening in the first quarter again. We'll jam on some more findings, because we're still into the first part of December at the time we're recording this, and some of the things I'm saying or are going to change. Imagine that.
Yeah.
As the data rolls out, I'm very optimistic in December across multiple channels, and there's actually a lot of good things happening at the macroeconomic level of our country. I'm optimistic for as well, for everybody who's listening, and the benefit of all of us, that I do hope pans out really well.
Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for coming on and having a good jam with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Neil.
Guys, like, comment, share, engage. As always, get this to somebody who needs to know, who needs to listen, and who needs to hear. And remember, your opportunity always begins at the end of your excuses. See you on the next show.